Scott Perry might have cooked. Nique Clifford and Maxime Raynaud put on a show in their Summer League debuts as the Kings defeat the Orlando Magic in Las Vegas. Oh yeah, we're definitely overreacting to one Summer League game right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all offseason long. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And man, I'm feeling the FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? Not being in Las Vegas to see the rookie debuts of Nique Clifford and Maxime Raynaud. Both of those kids, young men, they shined on that Summer League stage. And of course, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. Understand the joke behind my words in the introduction. It's one Summer League game. It's not a disaster for those who played poorly, and it doesn't mean that Maxime and Nique Clifford are going to be NBA Hall of Famers. But it's fun to enjoy when your two draft picks have two very different but still very, very solid performances in a Kings win, right? It's good to have Kings basketball to some extent back, and it's especially fun to be celebrating a win here on Locked On Kings. Those of you who were with me a lot last season, especially over the second half of last season, are hopefully enjoying having a little bit of optimistic, fun Matt George back here. This game was fun, right? This game was a lot of fun, and it started with Maxime Raynaud. Maxime Raynaud absolutely dominated the first quarter of this game. The Frenchman selected 42nd overall, the Kings' second round pick. And I've been sharing with you the reason I believe why Maxime Raynaud fell to 42 is because his camp wanted to be drafted by the Sacramento Kings. You hear a lot about the second round being more about agents kind of orchestrating where they want their player to go and less about a team selecting a player. Of course, there has to be mutual interest. But I don't believe there are 41 players in this NBA draft better than Maxime Raynaud. In fact, a lot of people had Maxime as one of the top 25, 27 players in this draft. But he fell to Sacramento at 42 because he wanted to come to the Kings. The Kings clearly wanted him, and he showed why right out of the gate with his fantastic first quarter. For the game, he had 16 points on 6 of 11 shooting from the field, 5 rebounds, a couple of assists, and a steal. But in the first quarter, he had 11 points, shot a perfect 4 of 4 from the field, including a three-pointer, had 2 rebounds and a steal. The steal resulted in a coast-to-coast slam from a 7'2" center. You love to see that from Maxime Raynaud. His jumper, a little bit funky mechanically, not the cleanest, most pure-looking jump shot in the league, but hey, it goes in, and he was hitting nothing but net, especially in that first half. The spacing, oh my goodness, the spacing of having a sharpshooting 7-footer on the floor was amazing, right? Being able to have him in the corner, on the wing, even top of the key at all times, so the guards or Isaac Jones could get downhill and try to attack the basket, and there's not a 7-footer in their way, right? I've drawn comparisons to Brook Lopez, not that Maxime Raynaud is a Brook Lopez archetype or will have the phenomenal career that Brook Lopez has had. But what Brook Lopez has turned into in this league, what he turned into for the Milwaukee Bucks as this rim protecting center who's a solid rebounder, who on the offensive end of the floor is just a poacher on the perimeter, who is always outside, ready for the kick out pass, ready to catch and shoot. The Kings have needed that for years. If you listen back to the Locked On Kings podcast over the last handful of years, I've talked probably 5-6 different times about how great it would be for the Kings to have Brook Lopez or a player like Brook Lopez. Maxime Raynaud can potentially be that. Again, I'm not declaring him it over one summer league game, but he showed us the potential and how great it is to have that spacing from a 7-foot center. But I like that his first bucket was actually in the post. His first bucket as a King. He gets the ball on the block, back to the basket, nice spin move, one-handed finish at the rim. Look, 7-footers should also be able to play in the paint and around the rim too, but the modern center needs to be able to step out beyond the free throw line. Maxime Raynaud showed off both aspects of this game, and I love how fearless he was on offense, right? You're not talking about a guy that was a little maybe nervous to play in his first game in the NBA, even if it's just the summer league, right? There were no nerves. There was no fear. Maybe this comes from the fact that he had 4 years of college experience and is an older rookie, but he stepped into this game and said, give me the freaking ball and I'm going to look to score. He knew what he did. He knows his skill set. He knows what he does. He showed it right away. A fantastic first quarter from Maxime Raynaud. And Scott Perry spent some time in the fourth quarter of this game joining the broadcast team. They always do these interviews with the general managers or the executives. And I'm sure Doug Christie, who's of course there in Vegas, will do an interview with them in a future game at some point. But Scott was asked about Maxime Raynaud, and he pointed out something that I completely agree with. He pointed out what stood out to him about Maxime right away is moving his feet on the defensive end. Right? Moving his feet, being able to step out to the perimeter, stay in front of guys, not getting blown by. Scott was really impressed by that, and that's good to see considering foot speed was one of the things that we saw that was a criticism of Raynaud's game, at least amongst draft experts and in his draft profile before the Sacramento Kings selected him. So the foot speed looked better. Defensively, if I have any gripe with Maxime Raynaud from this game, I need him to be stronger when he contests shots. He's got this unbelievable wingspan as a 7'2" center, right? And the amount of players that had to shoot floaters over the top of Maxime, like it just shows how he can change a shot simply by being on the floor. However, a lot of times when he's contesting shots at the rim and trying to block shots, he's doing so off the back foot. I understand, and we learned this a little bit from Kyle Smith from the Stanford Cardinal, in the interview I did with him very, very recently. Stanford, their coaching staff, because they relied so heavily on Maxime, who shot like 16 field goals a game for Stanford, they encouraged him defensively to not try and hunt shot blocking opportunities because they didn't want him to get into foul trouble. They needed him on the floor offensively. Well, the Kings are going to need more shot blocking from Maxime Raynaud than what Stanford expected of him. Oh, my light went out. Sorry about that, video viewers, but it's dead. We're going to keep on going. You can see that he's still a little bit too passive contesting shots at the rim. Right? On the back foot a lot. And in Summer League, you have a billion fouls. You can't foul out. Like, I would rather you be aggressive and get into foul trouble by trying to block shots than the kind of on the back foot, putting his hand up, but not really. I mean, he didn't have a block in this game. And there were a couple times where Skal Labissière, of course, reigning NBA G League champion with the Stockton Kings, playing for the Orlando Magic G League team at 29 years old, and he went right at Maxime a couple of times and scored on him in the paint. Like, I just need to, that's where we see like Maxime needs to get stronger. I would like to see there on the defensive end and him be a little more aggressive and assertive when trying to block shots. That's the main gripe that I have with him. But the foot speed on defense looked better. Offensively, he looked fantastic. So, I mean, you're not going to find too many things for me to be disappointed at with that first game by Maxime Raynaud. Now the question is, can it continue? What does it look like next game on Saturday. They take on the Chicago Bulls, I believe. Hopefully he can follow up this performance with another impressive performance. But the Kings' first round pick, Nique Clifford, had almost an opposite game. I'll explain in just a second. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be easier. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a simple budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. You'll notice when you start using Monarch Money, the breakdown of specifically where your money is going, it's game changing. It also might be humbling a little bit. You also might see a few things that hurt your stomach, like how much money is going to the amount of streaming services and entertainment services you have per month, or how much money you're spending like at Starbucks or Dutch Bros. That was a big thing for my family. But it's in there. It's in one place. It'll show it to you. You can't know or can't fix the problem until you know what the problem is, right? You'll get that on Monarch Money. And it's all in one app that tracks everything on a day-to-day basis. Like, no longer do you have to worry about spreadsheets and other apps and Excel sheets on your computer and different files, right? It's all in one place for you. Plus, if you have a partner with separate bank accounts, joint bank accounts, Monarch Money makes it easy to manage all of those without any of the added stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Maxime Raynaud was the king of the first half, but Nique Clifford was the clutch player of the game in the fourth quarter. Nique Clifford tonight, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block all over the stat sheet in his debut for Sacramento, the 24th overall pick. Got off to a slow start. At halftime, he had just 1 point, which was from the foul line, 0 of 4 from the field, right? The Kings built up to a 17 point lead in that first half, largely led by Maxime Raynaud. Nique Clifford wasn't really a part of it. Then, in true Kings fashion, Sacramento blew that 17-point lead, right? It got all the way down to a tie game before Nique Clifford went coast to coast off of the defense or off of the inbound, right? The Magic come and tie the game. Nique gets the ball off the inbound, goes coast to coast for the strong layup to retake the lead. Kings get a stop. Next possession down the floor, Devin Carter does well to attack the basket, touch the paint. We'll talk more about Devin's performance later on in the show. Finds Nique Clifford in the corner. Nique attacks baseline, slam dunk to put the Kings up by 4, and they were able to hold on to ultimately win this game. In the fourth quarter alone, Nique Clifford scored 11 points, shot 4 of 7 from the field, had 3 rebounds and an assist. So Maxime Raynaud got the party started for Sacramento, but Nique Clifford came up clutch and closed this win out for the Kings. That is awesome to see from your first round pick. I thought defensively, he had some really solid fundamental moments. Now, he did foul a little bit too much, right? I can't be complaining about saying, Maxime Raynaud, you have unlimited fouls, so foul as much as you want, and then complain about Nique Clifford's fouling. But he got a little handsy at times. He had 1 defensive possession in the first half that I thought was really encouraging. He and Devin Carter are defending the perimeter. Nique fights through a screen and then switches onto Carter's man, communicates to Carter, hey, drop down and take my man. I got the ball handler. Then the ball handler looks to try and turn the corner and attack the basket. Nique uses his feet, keeps his body upright, stays in front of the ball handler so he doesn't get that lane to the rim. The ball handler then goes up with the shot. Nique is called for the foul because there was contact, so that was the only problem with the play. But ultimately, I thought that was a really fundamentally sound defensive possession that shows the versatility of Nique Clifford on the defensive end. The communication was really solid for a rookie, showing some of the age, right? So the experience of 5 years of college basketball. I thought he came in and looked. He didn't look like a rookie, I felt, in this summer league game. If I have a gripe against Nique, just like I had a gripe against Maxime, I thought that, and I felt especially in the first half, that Nique passed up a few too many wide open threes. And there were a couple times where you could tell he was trying to make the right play. The defender was closing out, so he'd ball fake or pump fake and then put the ball on the ground. A couple of them resulted in good looks. Like he dribbled to the elbow and then pulled up from the elbow, missed those shots a couple of times. Look, in Doug Christie's offense, assuming Doug is carrying over his wanting to get upwards of 40 to 50 threes a game from last season, if that carries over in Doug Christie's offense, you got to let that shot fly. If you're open from three, if you have that green line on the perimeter in that space, let it go. Even if you miss, even if you go 1 of 8 from three-point range, doesn't matter. Like, let that shot fly. And again, it could be the first game jitters. It could be wanting to make the right plays. I thought the broadcast team pointed out that a lot of times rookies in their first game focus on trying to establish themselves in different areas rather than focusing on their overall game. So maybe he was more focused on like attacking the basket or putting the ball on the floor. But I need to see him let that shot fly a little bit more. We didn't get to see Nique handle the point guard responsibilities as much as I thought we would, because I've shared with you that I've been told that there are some in that front office in the Kings organization that believe that Nique can compete for that backup point guard spot right away. So we didn't get to see it too much, but he had moments like that coast-to-coast layup in the fourth quarter where he did take control of the ball, did take control of ball handling responsibilities, and it resulted in some good things. But the point guard position has been a major topic of conversation, of course, all offseason long. It was also a major focal point for Kings fans and the Kings themselves in this game, and Devin Carter got those primary point guard responsibilities. We'll break down how he did in just a second. Again, we don't want to overreact to one summer league game. We can celebrate and enjoy the really, really good performances that Maxime and Nique had, but with the understanding that it's one game. Let's enjoy it. Let's have fun, but it's one game. I make sure to establish that because on the flip side, guys who struggle, we can acknowledge the areas in which they struggle, be maybe disappointed in certain areas, but again, it's just one game. And in the case of Devin Carter, not only is it just one game, it's one game at a position primarily as at the point guard that he, admittedly, he said it himself, has not played until now in the NBA. The one area that I'm most disappointed with Devin Carter's performance, 8 points, 2 of 14 from the field, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, did only turn the ball over one time, which I thought was encouraging for the point guard's position. He did not look like the leader and the star of that team that I think he should be, right? You were the lottery pick of the Sacramento Kings last season. I understand you missed half of last season with that shoulder injury, and there were times where it looked like the shoulder was still bugging him a little bit. But, like, you're going into year 2. There are expectations of you. Also, I know Devin probably has a chip on his shoulder. He's very aware that his name has been brought up in trade talks and trade scenarios. So he has something to prove a little bit. And he has the opportunity on this team, maybe next to like Mason Jones, of being the guy. And I did not get, at any point, did not feel that Devin was the guy of that Kings team. The jumper is still ugly, and it wasn't falling. To be fair, a couple of the threes that Devin Carter took were like end of the shot clock heaves, so he kind of had no choice. I felt that Devin did a really good job attacking the paint. Like, paint touches are so important. I know that was more of a staple of Mike Brown's offense than it is like Doug Christie's, but it's still very, very important to get downhill, to touch the paint, draw the defense in. Devin was responsible for a couple of the open threes and open shots that the Kings had. So I felt that one of the point guard responsibilities is to also be able to get downhill and draw that defense in. And Devin was looking to do that. He was attack-minded, putting the ball on the floor, trying to get to the basket all game long, which I was very happy to see and thought he did a solid job with that. You could tell, though, that the Magic and their scouting report, they knew that Devin Carter was handling some responsibilities at the point guard position that he doesn't normally handle. They were attacking him. Right? When he would cross half court, they were all over him, just trying to make him as uncomfortable as possible. Again, according to the box score, only one turnover, which is encouraging. But you could tell that Devin was uncomfortable. Devin was uncomfortable pretty much the entire time. He did not look comfortable, and it just doesn't look natural. Again, it's not just one Summer League game. It's his first real game doing this as a point guard. So there's no need to freak out about it. But you can tell, like, what do we know Devin Carter to be? When the Kings drafted Devin Carter last year, whether they should have taken him or not, and I think you know how I feel. The Kings, I don't think Monte McNair should have ever drafted Devin Carter for this team last year. But he did. It is what it is. And it's Devin Carter's rebounding. It's his defense, right? It's the wingspan that he has for his size. How well he can rebound because of that wingspan. Like, that's Devin Carter's game. And I feel like with him focusing on these point guard responsibilities, which, yes, the Kings need, I didn't feel like Devin was able to be himself really at all in this game. And I understand that in Sacramento, Devin's route to playing time might be learning the backup point guard position. But if your strengths are not going to be emphasized, then you're not a good fit. You're not the right fit. Again, just one game. We're not overreacting too much, but it may make sense or point to as the reason why, like, Scott Perry is willing to move on from Devin and has been looking to move on from Devin, or at least including him in trade conversations all offseason long. Again, Perry, in his interview with the broadcast team, was talking about the point guard position. And what he shared that caught my ears, basically he said, like, we're still looking at the point guard position. And not in a sense that, like, we're looking on our roster to see who can handle it. He meant, like, we went out and got Dennis Schroeder, but we're still keeping our eye on the market, whether that's Russell Westbrook, Cameron Payne has all of a sudden been, like, brought up a lot. The Kings do have their MLE that they were able to keep as part of the Dennis Schroeder sign and trade with Detroit. So it would make sense. And especially if Scott Perry's there watching this game from Devin Carter, he probably wasn't too reassured about Carter's ability to, in the short term, in the interim, hold those responsibilities down. But I also know, just like we shouldn't, I know Scott's not going to overreact to one game, but any reservations that he might have about Devin, some of them were probably proven right by Devin's performance today. He deserves more opportunity. He will get more opportunity as the Summer League rolls on. A couple other performances to point out. I mentioned Isaac Jones earlier. He had a pretty solid performance, 11 points, got to the foul line 9 times, knocked down 7 free throws, which is good, 6 rebounds, a couple of steals. Then Mason Jones does what Mason Jones does, right? He is just a pure scorer. 17 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 3 of 7 from three-point range. I thought the Kings' team defense was really solid, right? They were aggressive, they were active, 12 steals, and held the Magic to 42% shooting from the field and 31% from three-point range. Overall, a Summer League win. The Kings rookies looked fantastic. That's a great day. That's a great first night in Las Vegas for the Sacramento Kings, and I can't wait to see what they do Saturday. Now I want to hear from you. Your thoughts on this Kings Summer League debut performance for their rookies, for the team as a whole. Hit me up. Let me know at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or feel free to leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.